Hello, my name is Tom McPherson and thank you for watching this video of how to draw a room in one-point perspective. For this drawing of one-point perspective, we start with a cross in the middle of the page. This will be the vanishing point, and all lines which aren't vertical or horizontal, which are diagonal lines within the room, will go towards this vanishing point. This is the 1 point in one-point perspective, and we're putting it in the center of the page. Around this point, it would be good to put a rectangle. This will be the back wall of the room that we're drawing. From this back wall we need 4 diagonal lines. Now each of these diagonal lines needs to start from our vanishing point in the center of the page, but we only need to draw them from the corners of the rectangle, going out of the drawing and off the page. So now we already have the basic room in one-point perspective. From this stage, remember that all the horizontal and vertical lines are parallel to each other. They stay the same distance apart from each other. They don't get closer or further away. They just stay parallel. I find it useful to check these lines by looking at the edge of the paper. So the horizontal lines need to be horizontal to the edge of the paper, and the vertical lines again vertical to the vertical edge of the paper. And in that way I can sort of see if my drawing's going right or going wrong. The other lines that we need to be careful of are the diagonal lines, and each of the diagonal lines needs to start, as it were, at the vanishing point and come out from there towards us, like spokes of a wheel coming out. But all of the diagonal lines in your drawing need to start from or end up at the vanishing point in the center of the page. So in this drawing I have made a doorway on the left, and now I'll add another horizontal line on the back wall. And then reading from the vanishing point in the center, I can work out how this horizontal line will look as it becomes a diagonal on the right hand wall of the room, just by reading it across from the vanishing point in the center. Now I'll draw 2 vertical lines at the back wall to make a window shape, and then I'll draw some more shapes on the floor, again in one-point perspective, so that all of the diagonal lines go to the vanishing point, and all the horizontal lines are parallel to other horizontal lines in the drawing. So now that we've got to this stage in the drawing, we've got the basic shapes, and it's time to tidy up the lines a little bit so that we get them a little bit straighter, and just check that they all go to the vanishing point if they need to, and just to sort of clear the drawing up a little bit with an eraser so that we can add some details later on. Details really need to always come towards an end of a drawing like this, so that once you've got the structure in place, then you can choose what sort of details you'd like to put in. So for this drawing, which is a drawing of a room, a Japanese traditional style room in one-point perspective, I'm going to draw lots of small rectangular windows, which will just be rectangles on the back wall, but on the right hand wall they'll be in perspective, so that the diagonals will be going to the vanishing point in the center. With a drawing like this, it doesn't really have too much scale to be able to read how big something is. Maybe the door frame on the left will give it some sense. You imagine somebody walking through the door frame and how tall they would be, but also the size of the windows will give some sort of sense of how big the room is. Now I need to add some vertical lines to these window panels, making them smaller and smaller. So I'll divide each panel in half and then half again, so I get 3 lines on each panel. And then I'll repeat that on the right hand side as well. And on the right hand side, these new windows will be closer together as they are towards the vanishing point, and further apart, wider apart as they come towards us. Now that we've got the basic windows in, some of these parallel lines that I've drawn, I want to make them dark, so to do that I'm going to go over all of the main lines with a felt tip pen, and then I'm going to fill in some of these parallel lines to make them black bars, which will help in the tonal drawing as it becomes a tonal drawing later on. So by adding some black felt tip pens, it makes the drawing quite different. The next step is to draw a garden through the central windows. So to do that I'm just going to draw a few simple trees, knowing that I'm going to use some coloured pencils as well later on. Now in this drawing I've been using grey paper rather than white paper for the drawing, because I'm going to add some soft white pastel towards the end of the drawing to create a sort of sense of light, a light effect going through the windows hopefully. Now, if you don't use grey paper, you could just use standard normal white paper. But what that will mean is that you'll need to just make some of the areas of the walls darker, and then the white of your paper will be the sort of light source shining through, rather than a soft white pastel being the light. So it's just two different ways of doing the same thing, really. Now, by using this white pastel, you get quite a quick effect of light. One of the things that's also interesting in a drawing like this is when you've got lots of straight lines, any loose lines like the foliage of the garden in the background or the quality of light shining through, you can be quite loose with these marks because they'll contrast with all the sharp edges that we've been spending the time drawing at the beginning of this drawing, so that the atmospheric sort of quality will come through hopefully a lot more because it's contrasting with the hard edges. So the main stage from now on is to make sure that you have a quality of light and dark. So if you're using pencils, use 4B or 6B pencils and make some of the room seem really dark. And then the darker you make some parts of the room, the lighter your white paper will be. Or if you're using grey paper, you don't need to make the room quite so dark because you can use the greyness of the paper that's there already, and then the white pastel will make the lights lighter. So the main thing is to have a wide contrast between light and dark and have it quite atmospheric with not too many straight lines in the tone that you're doing. So it's blocks of tone, or tone, light and dark, which doesn't really have a very well defined edge. I hope you find this drawing useful for your own drawing, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Circle Line Art School, where I post a new video every week. There are now over 180 videos of mine to look at. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you keep drawing, and see you next time. Bye bye.